Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Obama administration, Joel Rubin. Joel, good morning to you.
Good morning, Casey.
This is a potentially significant shift here in U.S. policy. What do you think the ramifications could be?
Yeah, this is a moment of inflection right now where the American military supply to Ukraine has been slow to get to them because of the delays in Congress. The supplies are not going to fully get there until July. So in this interim period, Russia is making a push, and the vulnerabilities to Ukraine are severe. In particular, having missile batteries from within Russia, lobbing volleys straight into the Kharkiv region. Ukraine has been on the defensive, and so I think it's appropriate for the administration to get creative at this point. Vladimir Putin has been trying to intimidate for more than 2 years now any Western support for Ukraine writ large. And so it's good to call his bluff on this one and allow the Ukrainians to be unleashed enough to protect themselves and in their direct vulnerabilities while this supply does move into Ukraine.
It's interesting to me you mention how threatening Putin has been being, because I want to show you first Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO chief, talking about the European shift in policy, and then I'll show you Putin's response. Let's watch Stoltenberg first.
It's impossible, or at least it's very difficult for the Ukrainians, if the Russians can just be on the other side of the border and then launch missile attacks, air attacks against the Ukrainians, and they not being able to use their advanced weapons to hit back.
Representatives of NATO countries, especially in Europe, especially in small countries, they should be aware what they're playing with. They should remember that as countries with small, densely populated territories. And this is a factor that they should keep in mind before talking about striking Russian territory. In general, this constant escalation can lead to serious consequences.
They should be aware of what they're playing with.
Yeah, well, nobody's unaware of what Vladimir Putin has in his arsenal, and he's been saber-rattling for over 2 years now with his nuclear arsenal, or at least rhetorically doing so. Nothing has left his silos, for example, or made our intelligence community believe that he's actually going to discharge a nuclear warhead into the theater. I think this is bluster. We've seen it before. We'll likely see it again. Europe is very concerned, NATO is very concerned about the Russian progress on the battlefield, and Vladimir Putin understands how to play the psychological warfare games to prevent NATO from enacting the kind of military policy we're talking about here that could harm his ability to conduct this offensive. So it's saber-rattling to try to intimidate, but I think it's more hot air than it is actually a legitimate argument of what he's going to do on the battlefield.
Yeah. Let's move now to Israel. The U.S. has been urging Israel to think through a post-war plan for Gaza. It doesn't seem like we're on the same page here in the U.S. With Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, and there are these questions about a red line in Rafah. The White House has said so far that has not been crossed. What do you see as kind of the next move here as Biden comes under increasing pressure?
Well, the president's holding firm for now and allowing Israel to have the freedom of operation to go after Hamas terrorists, and he's continuing to maintain the need for a ceasefire. But this is the real big stumbling block right now with Prime Minister Netanyahu, that the calls for a plan is, in American parlance, it's a call for an exit strategy and a call for something to leave stability and governance and security afterwards. And the Israeli defense establishment gets that argument. Leaders of the opposition parties get that argument, like Yair Lapid and even Benny Gantz, who's a member of the war cabinet. He's not in the Likud. But Prime Minister Netanyahu is afraid to give that signal that he wants that because his coalition could fracture on the far right if he looks like he's actually laying the groundwork for a Palestinian state. But that's what it's going to take. You know, Casey, this is not just a military war. Yeah. This has political dimensions. And to ensure that there's stability over time, that means a political solution is necessary while these military activities continue. And I think the president's balancing is right. The question is will the prime minister finally grab the hand that the United States is reaching out to the Israeli people and to the prime minister to say, you need to have a day after plan to make this really work.
All right, Joel Rubin for us this morning. Joel, thank you. Really appreciate your time.